Someone is deeply in love with you. Yet the most important question is not who they are. The more important question is why their presence echoes through your mind even when they are absent. Why does a feeling arrive before any proof? Why does silence sometimes seem louder than words? The answers rarely begin in the visible world. They begin beneath the surface, where emotions take shape long before they become actions. Love is often imagined as something loud, unmistakable, and impossible to hide. Stories teach us that when someone truly cares, they will rush forward without hesitation, confess their feelings, and make their intentions obvious. Yet real human psychology reveals a far more complex picture. The strongest emotions do not always produce the boldest actions. In many cases, they produce silence. They create hesitation where confidence once existed, uncertainty where certainty once seemed natural. The deeper a feeling becomes, the more vulnerable a person feels, and vulnerability has a curious way of disguising itself as distance. When someone begins to develop profound affection, their inner world changes long before anything visible happens on the outside. Thoughts become occupied by a single person. Ordinary moments gain unexpected meaning. A simple conversation is replayed countless times in memory, each word examined for hidden significance. A smile is remembered long after it has passed. The mind begins to search for patterns, possibilities, and hopes that did not exist before. This quiet transformation often remains invisible because it unfolds beneath the surface of conscious behavior. The paradox is that the more someone values another person, the greater the risk they perceive. Every interaction suddenly feels important. A careless sentence could be misunderstood. An awkward moment might destroy what they secretly hope to build. Because the emotional stakes have become so high, they begin to monitor themselves constantly. Instead of speaking naturally, they measure every word. Instead of acting freely, they become cautious. Ironically, this caution can make them appear distant or uninterested when the opposite is true. Fear plays a significant role in this silence. Not merely the fear of rejection, but the fear of exposing something deeply personal. To admit genuine love is to reveal a part of oneself that cannot be protected by logic or pride. Once those feelings are spoken aloud, they are no longer safely hidden. They become vulnerable to misunderstanding, indifference, or disappointment. Many people would rather carry silent affection than risk watching it disappear in a single moment of honesty. Silence also serves another psychological purpose. It allows a person to preserve hope without confronting reality. As long as emotions remain unspoken, every possibility still exists. The imagination fills empty spaces with optimistic outcomes. The unknown often feels safer than receiving an answer that might end the dream forever. This is why some people remain quietly devoted for months or even years, convincing themselves that waiting is easier than knowing. Another reason deep love often hides behind silence is that powerful emotions awaken old emotional wounds. A person who has experienced betrayal, abandonment, or heartbreak may unconsciously associate intimacy with pain. Even while longing for connection, another part of the mind urges caution. These conflicting forces create hesitation. One side moves toward love, while the other pulls away in self-protection. The result is behavior that seems contradictory, but is entirely understandable from a psychological perspective. This internal conflict frequently appears in small, subtle ways. Someone may seem excited to see you, only to become unusually quiet once the conversation begins. They may initiate contact but then withdraw unexpectedly. They may notice every detail about your life while pretending not to care. These inconsistencies are not always signs of confusion about their feelings. More often, they reveal confusion about how to safely express those feelings without risking emotional pain. People often assume confidence and love naturally belong together, yet the opposite can be true. Someone who is socially outgoing may suddenly become shy around the person who matters most. A confident speaker may struggle to maintain eye contact. Someone who appears emotionally strong may overthink a simple text message for hours before pressing send. Love has a way of humbling even the most self-assured individuals, because it introduces uncertainty into areas where certainty once existed. The deepest emotions rarely announce themselves with dramatic declarations at the beginning. Instead, they reveal themselves through quiet attention, patient observation, and an almost invisible desire to protect the connection before it has fully formed. Silence in these moments is not the absence of feeling. It is often the presence of feeling so significant that words seem too small to contain them. Human beings often believe that emotions can be hidden completely, yet psychology suggests that feelings frequently reveal themselves through subtle behaviors long before they are consciously expressed. Attraction, especially when it is intense, has a way of influencing attention, body language, memory, and emotional reactions. Even when a person tries to conceal their feelings, the unconscious mind often communicates what the conscious mind is attempting to hide. Love leaves traces, and those traces can appear in the smallest details. One of the strongest indicators of hidden attraction is attention. People naturally invest their attention in what they value. When someone has deep feelings for you, they may notice details that others overlook. They remember things you mentioned casually weeks or months ago. They recall your preferences, your worries, your goals, and even the stories you assumed nobody was listening to. Memory becomes emotionally selective. The mind prioritizes information connected to what feels important, and affection increases that importance. Eye contact is another powerful signal. The eyes often communicate emotions more honestly than words. A person who is secretly attracted to you may hold eye contact longer than usual, only to look away quickly when they realize what they are doing. At other times, they may avoid eye contact entirely, because looking directly at you feels too emotionally intense. Both reactions can stem from the same source: heightened emotional awareness. When feelings are strong, even a simple glance can feel deeply meaningful. Psychologists have long observed the phenomenon of mirroring. People tend to unconsciously imitate the behaviors, gestures, speech patterns, or posture of individuals they feel connected to. This is not usually deliberate. It is an automatic response that reflects emotional rapport and psychological closeness. Someone who is deeply drawn to you may begin adopting similar expressions, laughing in a similar way, or matching your energy without realizing it. The unconscious mind often seeks connection through imitation. Another subtle sign is the desire for proximity. Human beings are naturally inclined to move closer to what they find emotionally rewarding. Someone with strong feelings may look for reasons to be near you, participate in the same activities, or extend conversations that could have ended much earlier. They may not openly admit their intentions, yet their actions repeatedly place them within your orbit. Their presence becomes more frequent, not because of coincidence alone, but because emotional attraction influences behavior. A person's emotional reactions can also reveal hidden affection. When someone cares deeply, your opinions begin to matter more than they normally would. Praise from you may brighten their mood for hours, while criticism or indifference can affect them more than they expected. This heightened sensitivity often occurs because emotional attachment increases psychological significance. The more someone values your presence, the more emotional weight your words and actions carry. Accurate attraction can also appear through nervousness. A person who is calm and confident in most situations may suddenly become uncertain around someone they deeply admire. They might overthink what they say, stumble over simple words, or become unusually self-conscious. This happens because attraction activates both desire and vulnerability. The possibility of rejection creates tension, and that tension can influence behavior in noticeable ways. Another sign is curiosity. Genuine attraction inspires a deep interest in another person's inner world. Someone who secretly loves you often wants to understand your thoughts, values, fears, and dreams. Their questions move beyond surface-level conversation. They seek emotional understanding rather than simple information. They are not merely interested in what you do, they are interested in who you are. Yet it is important to recognize that no single behavior proves hidden love. Psychology is rarely that simple. Eye contact can mean many things. Nervousness can arise from numerous causes. Attraction reveals itself not through isolated moments but through patterns. Consistent attention, emotional investment, genuine curiosity, and repeated efforts to remain connected often speak more truthfully than any confession. The unconscious mind may hide feelings behind silence, but over time it leaves enough clues for those who are willing to observe carefully. When someone begins to feel an unusually powerful attraction toward another person, it is tempting to believe that every emotion comes entirely from the qualities of the individual standing before them. Yet psychology suggests that love is often more complicated than simple admiration. The human mind does not merely observe reality, it interprets it. Every person carries within them a collection of hopes, ideals, memories, unmet needs, and hidden desires. When these inner elements encounter someone who seems to embody them, a process begins in which the mind unconsciously attributes extraordinary meaning to that person. This is known as psychological projection. Projection is not necessarily an illusion or a mistake. It is a natural function of the unconscious mind. People often recognize in others qualities they long to develop within themselves. Someone who feels incomplete may become deeply attracted to a person who appears confident, compassionate, creative, or emotionally secure. The attraction is genuine, but it is intensified because the other person symbolizes something much larger than themselves. They become a living representation of forgotten aspirations and hidden possibilities. This explains why some people describe meeting someone as feeling strangely familiar, even when they have only recently met. The sense of familiarity may not come from shared history, but from the unconscious recognition of deeply valued psychological qualities. The mind quietly whispers, "This person reflects something I have been searching for." That feeling can be so powerful that it creates an emotional connection before the relationship has had time to develop naturally. When someone is deeply in love with you, they may see qualities in you that others overlook. They notice your kindness when others notice only your appearance. They admire your resilience when others focus on your achievements. Every small action becomes meaningful because it fits into the image their unconscious has created. A simple smile may feel profoundly comforting. An ordinary conversation may seem unforgettable. The emotional significance they attach to these moments often exceeds the events themselves. However, projection also carries risks. Because the unconscious fills in gaps with imagination, people sometimes mistake potential for reality. They begin to believe they know someone completely after only limited interaction. They assume thoughts, intentions, or emotions that have never been expressed. In this state, the person they love is partly real and partly shaped by their own inner world. This does not mean the affection is fake. It means that love often begins as a conversation between reality and imagination. The intensity of this process explains why hidden love can seem almost overwhelming. The person is not responding only to who you are today, but also to everything you represent in their psychological landscape. You may symbolize hope after years of disappointment, peace after emotional chaos, or acceptance after a lifetime of self-doubt. Without realizing it, they connect you to emotional experiences that reach far beyond the present moment. As time passes, healthy relationships gradually transform this projection into genuine understanding. The idealized image begins to fade, replaced by appreciation for the real person with strengths, imperfections, fears, and limitations. True emotional maturity allows someone to love another person without demanding perfection. Instead of clinging to an imagined version, they learn to embrace authenticity. People who are secretly in love often struggle during this transition. Part of them wants to preserve the ideal image because it feels comforting. Another part slowly recognizes that genuine connection requires accepting reality rather than fantasy. This inner conflict may cause moments of confusion, hesitation, or emotional distance. They are learning that lasting affection is built not on illusion but on understanding. One of the clearest signs of authentic love is that it survives the disappearance of idealization. When someone continues to value you after discovering your imperfections, their feelings have moved beyond projection into genuine emotional connection. They no longer love the image their mind created. They love the person standing before them. In that moment, affection becomes quieter, steadier, and far more enduring because it is no longer sustained by imagination alone but by truth, acceptance, and a sincere appreciation of another human being. The human heart often desires connection with remarkable intensity, yet the mind does not always move in the same direction. When someone develops deep feelings for another person, they may experience an internal conflict that is invisible to everyone around them. On one side exists the powerful longing to become closer, to share thoughts, emotions, and dreams. On the other side stands an equally powerful fear of rejection, disappointment, or emotional pain. These opposing forces create one of the most fascinating psychological struggles, where love and fear exist together, each influencing the person's behavior in unexpected ways. Many people assume that genuine love naturally produces confidence. In reality, profound affection often creates uncertainty. Before emotional attachment develops, conversations may feel effortless and relaxed. Once the relationship begins to matter deeply, every word suddenly seems important. A harmless message is rewritten several times before being sent. A simple conversation is replayed repeatedly in the mind, searching for hidden meanings or possible mistakes. The greater the emotional investment, the greater the fear of losing what has become valuable. This conflict is rooted in the human need for emotional safety. Every person carries memories of past experiences, whether they realize it or not. Previous disappointments, broken trust, painful endings, or moments of rejection quietly shape present behavior. Even when a new relationship feels promising, the unconscious mind remembers old wounds. It tries to prevent history from repeating itself by encouraging caution. As a result, someone who genuinely wants to move closer may unexpectedly pull away. This behavior is not always a sign of fading interest. Often it is the mind's attempt to protect the heart from anticipated pain. Fear has a remarkable ability to disguise itself. Instead of appearing as obvious anxiety, it often takes the form of hesitation, emotional distance, or mixed signals. A person may initiate meaningful conversations one day and seem unusually quiet the next. They may appear eager to spend time with you, but suddenly become unavailable without explanation. These contradictions can be confusing, yet they frequently reflect an ongoing psychological struggle rather than a lack of affection. Another aspect of this inner conflict involves vulnerability. To truly love someone is to allow them access to parts of yourself that are normally hidden. It means revealing dreams, insecurities, weaknesses, and emotions that are carefully protected from the outside world. For many people, this openness feels both beautiful and frightening. They long to be understood, but they also fear being judged or misunderstood. This creates a constant tension between honesty and self-protection. The unconscious mind also tends to imagine future possibilities before they happen. Someone deeply in love may not only think about the joy of a relationship, but also about everything that could go wrong. They imagine rejection before confessing their feelings. They worry about losing the connection before it has even fully developed. These imagined outcomes create emotional stress that influences present behavior, making the person appear uncertain, despite the sincerity of their emotions. This psychological conflict becomes especially noticeable in small interactions. A compliment may remain unspoken because it feels too revealing. A message may stay unsent because it seems too vulnerable. An opportunity to express affection may be replaced with humor, indirect comments, or silence. The person hopes their feelings will somehow be understood without requiring them to risk direct exposure. Unfortunately, this often leads to misunderstandings, where genuine love appears as indifference, simply because fear has become stronger than expression. Time plays an important role in resolving this conflict. As trust gradually develops, fear begins to lose its influence. Every positive interaction becomes evidence that emotional openness can be safe. Slowly, the need for self-protection weakens, allowing authenticity to emerge. The person no longer feels compelled to hide behind emotional distance because they begin to believe that being truly seen is less dangerous than remaining permanently hidden. In the end, the struggle between love and fear reveals something deeply human. It reminds us that strong emotions are rarely simple. The person who hesitates the most may sometimes care the deepest. Their silence, inconsistency, or caution may not be signs of emotional absence but evidence of an invisible battle taking place within. A battle where the desire to love is learning, step by step, to become stronger than the fear of being hurt. When genuine love enters a person's life, it rarely leaves them unchanged. Real affection is not simply an emotion that exists for a moment. It becomes a force that gradually reshapes the way a person thinks, feels, and behaves. Psychology suggests that meaningful emotional bonds influence motivation, attention, habits, and even identity. Someone who truly loves another person often begins changing in quiet, consistent ways, not because they are trying to impress someone, but because love naturally encourages growth from within. One of the first changes appears in the way a person thinks about the future. Before falling deeply in love, many decisions revolve around individual goals and personal desires. Once a strong emotional connection develops, another person's well-being becomes part of those decisions. The mind begins asking different questions. Instead of wondering only what is best for oneself, it starts considering what is best for both people. This shift reflects a psychological movement from independence toward shared emotional investment. Another noticeable change is increased empathy. Genuine love expands a person's ability to understand and care about another person's emotional experiences. They become more attentive to subtle changes in mood, tone of voice, or facial expressions. They notice when something feels different, even if no words have been spoken. This heightened awareness is not accidental. Emotional attachment encourages the brain to pay closer attention to someone who has become psychologically significant. Their happiness feels rewarding, while their sadness creates a sincere desire to provide comfort and support. Love also transforms the way people communicate. Someone who once avoided difficult conversations may become more willing to express vulnerability. They begin sharing thoughts, fears, and dreams that they previously kept hidden. Honest communication requires courage because it involves revealing parts of the self that cannot be protected by confidence or appearances. Yet genuine affection often creates the motivation to take that risk, believing that emotional honesty is more valuable than emotional distance. Another important transformation involves patience. People who truly care about someone often become more willing to wait, forgive, and understand. Small misunderstandings no longer seem worth winning if they damage the relationship. Instead of reacting impulsively, they begin considering the other person's perspective. This does not mean ignoring unhealthy behavior or sacrificing self-respect. Rather, it reflects a growing emotional maturity, where preserving trust becomes more important than proving oneself right. Real love also inspires self-improvement. Psychology shows that meaningful relationships frequently motivate individuals to become better versions of themselves. A person may begin developing healthier habits, pursuing personal goals, improving communication skills, or addressing emotional weaknesses they once ignored. These changes are most authentic when they arise from internal motivation rather than external pressure. They are not attempting to become someone else. They are becoming more fully themselves because love has awakened a deeper sense of purpose and responsibility. Another behavioral change is consistency. Temporary attraction often produces dramatic gestures followed by inconsistency, while genuine love expresses itself through reliable actions repeated over time. A person who truly loves you remembers important moments, keeps promises whenever possible, checks on your well-being, and makes an effort to remain emotionally present. Their affection becomes visible, not through occasional excitement, but through dependable care. Consistency reflects commitment, and commitment is one of the strongest psychological indicators of authentic emotional attachment. Love also changes the way a person experiences success and failure. Personal achievements become more meaningful when they can be shared with someone important. Likewise, difficulties become easier to endure because they no longer feel completely alone. Emotional support creates resilience, allowing individuals to face challenges with greater confidence. The relationship becomes a source of psychological stability, providing encouragement during uncertainty and reassurance during moments of self-doubt. Perhaps the most profound transformation occurs within a person's sense of identity. Genuine love encourages authenticity rather than performance. Over time, the need to impress gradually gives way to the desire to be understood. Masks begin to fall away, replaced by honesty, trust, and acceptance. The person no longer seeks perfection because they recognize that real connection is built upon truth rather than appearances. In this way, genuine love changes behavior not through force or obligation, but through quiet emotional growth, revealing qualities that may have always existed beneath the surface, waiting for the right relationship to bring them into the light. Love and obsession are often confused because both involve intense emotions, constant thoughts, and a strong desire to be close to another person. From the outside, they can appear remarkably similar. Both may inspire excitement, longing, and emotional attachment. Yet psychology reveals a profound difference between these two experiences. Genuine love is rooted in respect, freedom, and mutual growth, while obsession is driven by fear, insecurity, and the need for control. Understanding this distinction is essential because what feels powerful is not always healthy, and what appears passionate is not always love. Authentic love begins with appreciation for another person's individuality. When someone truly loves you, they recognize that you have your own thoughts, dreams, relationships, and personal boundaries. They do not expect you to abandon your identity to satisfy their emotional needs. Instead, they find joy in seeing you become the fullest version of yourself. Love celebrates freedom because it understands that genuine connection cannot exist where individuality is destroyed. Obsession, however, follows a different psychological path. Instead of appreciating another person for who they are, an obsessive mind often becomes attached to the emotional experience that person creates. The relationship gradually shifts from connection to possession. The individual may begin believing that their happiness depends entirely on the other person's presence, attention, or approval. As this belief grows stronger, fear also grows stronger. Every delayed message, cancelled plan, or moment of distance feels threatening because the emotional balance has become dependent on external reassurance. One of the clearest differences appears in emotional security. A person experiencing genuine love may miss someone deeply, yet they still maintain a stable sense of self. Their identity does not disappear when the other person is unavailable. They continue pursuing personal goals, friendships, and responsibilities because love enriches life rather than replacing it. Obsession, by contrast, often narrows a person's world until nearly every thought revolves around one individual. Daily happiness becomes controlled by another person's actions, creating emotional instability and constant anxiety. Another important distinction involves trust. Healthy love naturally encourages confidence in the relationship. Even during temporary separation, there is an underlying belief that honesty and mutual respect remain intact. Obsession struggles to trust because it is fueled by insecurity. The mind repeatedly searches for signs of rejection, betrayal, or abandonment, even when no evidence exists. Small uncertainties become magnified into imagined threats, creating unnecessary conflict and emotional exhaustion. Psychology also shows that genuine love encourages emotional growth. A loving relationship inspires patience, communication, empathy, and personal development. Both individuals gradually become more emotionally mature because they learn from one another. Challenges become opportunities to strengthen understanding, rather than reasons to dominate or manipulate. Love asks, "How can we grow together?" Obsession asks, "How can I prevent losing you?" Although these questions may seem similar, they arise from entirely different emotional foundations. Respect for boundaries provides another powerful distinction. Someone who genuinely loves you understands that every healthy relationship requires space, independence, and personal choice. They recognize that time apart does not weaken authentic connection. Instead, it allows both individuals to continue developing as independent people. Obsession often interprets independence as rejection. Personal space feels threatening because it creates uncertainty, and uncertainty feeds fear. As a result, obsessive behavior may become controlling, demanding, or emotionally overwhelming. The language of love is also different from the language of obsession. Love expresses itself through consistent care, thoughtful actions, honest communication, and mutual respect. Obsession often speaks through urgency, constant reassurance seeking, emotional extremes, and the overwhelming need to eliminate uncertainty. Genuine affection feels peaceful even during difficult moments because it is built upon trust. Obsession feels restless because it constantly fears losing what it desperately wants to keep. Perhaps the greatest psychological difference is that authentic love seeks the well-being of both people, even when that requires patience, sacrifice, or difficult conversations. Obsession, despite its intensity, often focuses primarily on relieving personal emotional discomfort. It wants immediate certainty rather than lasting understanding. True love grows stronger through acceptance, honesty, and freedom, while obsession grows stronger through fear and dependence. Although both can begin with powerful attraction, only genuine love creates an environment where two individuals are free to become their most authentic selves without losing who they are in the process. In a world where emotions are often expressed through carefully chosen words and polished appearances, it can be difficult to know whether someone's feelings are truly genuine. Psychology reminds us that authentic emotions are rarely proven by dramatic declarations alone. Instead, they reveal themselves through consistent patterns of behavior over time. Anyone can make promises in a moment of excitement, but genuine affection is measured by what a person repeatedly chooses to do when no audience is watching and no immediate reward is expected. One of the strongest indicators of a real emotional connection is consistency. A person who genuinely cares about you does not appear only when it is convenient or when they need something in return. Their interest remains steady through ordinary days as well as difficult ones. They continue checking on your well-being, remembering important moments, and making an effort to stay connected. This reliability creates a sense of emotional safety because their actions match their words. Consistency is one of the quiet foundations upon which trust is built. Another important sign is emotional presence. Genuine connection is not simply about spending time together. It is about being fully engaged during that time. Someone who truly values you listens carefully instead of waiting for their turn to speak. They remember details from previous conversations because your thoughts matter to them. They notice changes in your mood even when you try to hide them. Their attention is not divided by constant distraction because they recognize that understanding another person requires genuine presence. Respect also plays a central role in authentic love. Healthy affection never demands that you abandon your values, dreams, or individuality. Instead, it encourages your personal growth. A person with sincere feelings celebrates your achievements without feeling threatened by them. They support your ambitions even when those ambitions require patience or temporary sacrifice. Rather than competing for control, they seek cooperation and mutual understanding. Respect transforms attraction into a relationship built on equality instead of dependence. Psychology also emphasizes the importance of honesty. Authentic feelings create a desire for truthful communication, even when conversations become uncomfortable. A person who genuinely cares is willing to discuss misunderstandings instead of avoiding them. They acknowledge mistakes, apologize when necessary, and work toward solutions rather than allowing resentment to grow. Their goal is not to appear perfect but to preserve trust through openness and accountability. Noxes during difficult times often reveal more than actions during happy moments. It is easy to show affection when life is comfortable and everything is going well. The true nature of a relationship becomes visible during periods of stress, disappointment, or uncertainty. Someone who genuinely loves you remains supportive when circumstances become challenging. They do not disappear at the first sign of difficulty. Instead, they seek ways to solve problems together, demonstrating that their commitment extends beyond temporary emotions. Another meaningful sign is patience. Real emotional connection develops naturally without forcing immediate certainty. Someone who sincerely values the relationship understands that trust grows gradually. They do not pressure you into making decisions before you are ready, nor do they manipulate your emotions to gain reassurance. Their confidence comes from the belief that authentic relationships cannot be rushed. Patience reflects emotional maturity because it values lasting connection over temporary satisfaction. Perhaps the most significant indicator is the way you feel in their presence. Genuine love tends to create emotional security rather than constant confusion. While no relationship is free from challenges, authentic affection brings a growing sense of acceptance, respect, and peace. You do not feel as though you must constantly earn their attention or prove your worth. Instead, you feel encouraged to be honest about your thoughts, emotions, and imperfections without fear of losing their care. Recognizing a real connection requires looking beyond isolated moments and observing long-term patterns. Grand gestures can be impressive, but daily kindness often reveals much more. Repeated honesty, dependable support, respectful communication, and unwavering care form a stronger foundation than dramatic promises ever could. In the end, authentic love is rarely the loudest emotion in the room. It is the quiet consistency of someone who chooses, day after day, to stand beside you with sincerity, respect, and a genuine desire to see both of you grow together.